All right, I'm doing that usual stall because you never can tell when it's going to say live. I feel like Saturday Night Live every time that happens. Hi, I'm Lynette Louise, the Brain Broad. Welcome to another segment of the Leadership Summit. It's a virtual leadership summit. I am talking to people from all over the world. It's very exciting. I'm calling this Seeking the Path because I think it's important to understand how you travel through life, how you reach the pinnacle of success, and what you think success might be. So we are seeking the path by asking many experts who have done wonderful things how to get where you want to go. Today's guest is no exception. In fact, today's guest is the exception. He's probably the most amazing man I've ever had the opportunity to meet. But before I tell you who it is, I want to tell you, remember, I have a book. It's my little commercial moment. So my new book is called The 7 Senses of Leadership, The Brain Broad's Guide to Leadership Sensibilities. There it is. It's over my shoulder. It's always everywhere. It's on Amazon.com. Okay, we're done with that now, but make sure you get it because it will really help you be a smarty pants who knows what they're doing as they try to get people to follow them or try to pick their leaders. Okay, so who are we talking to today? I seldom read the the resume or the awards of the person that I'm introducing because I always know them. However, this man's list here, there's something that I just want to share with you, and I'm going to read it. Frank Shankwitz. He's called Wishman, by the way, and you'll very quickly understand why. So Frank Shankwitz is the co-founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, hence Wishman. But here's why I wanted to read it. He's received the President's Call to Service Award, the Making a Difference in the World Award, the Making a World of Difference, and the Ellis Island Medal of Honor Awards. So we are talking with a man who's been very decorated for all that he's done, and rightly so. I'm so thrilled to introduce you to him. It's been quite a challenge getting our technology to work again. So I love that he's been persistent right at the get-go. Frank, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Okay, so let's just jump right in and give, I told people who you are, but let's give them a teeny little sense of how it is that you came to be Wishman. And by the way, everyone, there's a book out called Wishman and a movie on the way, which we'll ask him about. But first, how did you get to be Wishman?
Well, I was my true career is a police officer. I've got 42 years service with the Arizona Highway Patrol / Department of Public Safety. And in my early years with the Highway Patrol, I was a motorcycle officer and on a squad that worked the whole state of Arizona, two-man team, just like the TV show Chips. In fact, we had originally trained with California Highway Patrol, and our motorcycles, everything was identical to them except the fact that ours obviously said Arizona. But during that period, there was a very popular TV show called Chips. Right. And if a lot of your listeners remember that, they're showing their age because that was in the early 70s.
Hey! Showing my age.
But Chips was so popular, especially with the children. And when we were on these events that we do in these cities and towns all over Arizona, the little rural towns, the kids, instead of being afraid of a police officer, all of a sudden would start yelling, "Hey, Ponch, hey, John, hey, Chips." It was a great PR tool. And because of that, when we had a little bit of off-duty time in a small town, we'd ask to go to the local grade school and maybe talk about bicycle safety. And the kids could care less about that. They just wanted to get on a motorcycle. But again, it was a great PR tool. And because of that, a U.S. Customs agent by the name of Tom Austin had learned what we were doing, and he befriended a little boy named Chris. Chris was 7 years old. Chris unfortunately had leukemia, and Chris only had a couple of weeks to live. But Chris's heroes were Ponch and John from Chips. And he always told Agent Austin, when I grow up, I'm going to be a motorcyclist officer, just like Ponch and John. So Agent Austin, through contacts in our department of the Highway Patrol, asked if we could do something special for Chris, if he could meet a motorcycle officer. And because of the work I had done with the children all over the state, I was chosen, fortunately, to be that officer, because I had never met Chris. But through the permission of our commanders, Chris's doctor, Chris's mom, he was picked up at his hospital. Now, this little boy had just come off IVs flown with our paramedics to our headquarters building, and I was asked to be standing by when they landed, which I did. And I expected our paramedics to help this little boy get out of the helicopter. Instead, here comes this little pair of red sneakers jumping out of there, running over to the motorcycle. Hi, I'm Chris. And he is just fascinated. As far as he's concerned, he's looking at either Ponch or John from Chips. And at the time, I had very red hair, was very tan, so I could have been either one, Larry Wilcox or Eric Estrada. But the little boy was fascinated. What got me is I knew that he had leukemia. I knew he only had 2 weeks to live. And still, here's this boy running all over like a typical 7-year-old. But especially looking at his mother, has got tears in her eyes because, again, she has her typical 7-year-old boy again, not a little boy in a hospital and IVs and that. But to kind of condense his story, Chris that day was made the only honorary highway patrol officer in the history of the Arizona Highway Patrol, complete with his own badge. We had a uniform made for him the following day, which we presented, his own smoke hat, everything to make him a full Highway Patrol officer. But he came to me and he said he was fascinated by the wings on my motorcycle. On my uniform. And he said, how do I become a motorcycle officer? That's my wish. And that's the first time I heard that word, wish. So I just teasing him and telling him what the training we did. And we were at his house when he asked me that. And I said, it's a shame you don't have a motorcycle. We'd train you right now. We put traffic cones in your driveway, just kind of teasing him into that. He went running in the house, came out riding on a little battery-operated motorcycle that his mother had got for him in place of a wheelchair. Now, he's got the complete uniform we've got for him. He's got on his helmet. He's even got on the aviator glasses like the motorcycle officers wear. We tested him. Did I pass? Yes, you did, Chris. When do I get my wings? And those had to be special ordered. So I ordered the wings. A couple days later, I picked up the wings. When I picked up the wings, I also got a call. Chris is in the hospital in a coma. He's probably not going to survive the day. I received permission to go to the hospital. His uniform was hanging right by his bed. Just as I pinned on the motorcycle wings on his uniform, Chris came out of the coma. He looked at me. He smiled. Am I a motorcycle officer now? Yes, you are, Chris. He just started grinning and just a little giggle. I handed him his uniform. He's rubbing the wings. His wish had come true. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple hours later. And I would like to think maybe those wings helped carry him to heaven.
Aww.
But our department, our commanders came to me and said, we have lost a fellow officer. We learned that Chris was going to be buried in Illinois. And they asked if I would go back with another officer to give him a full police funeral, which we did. We were joined by Illinois State Police, City Police, County Police to give this young officer a full police funeral. He was buried in uniform. His grave marker reads, Chris Gracious, Arizona Trooper. And he's only 7 years old at this time. But Lynette, coming home from Chicago, flying home to Arizona, I just started thinking, there's probably other children out there that have a wish, and maybe we could make that happen. And that's when the idea was born at 36,000 feet. Let's let a child make a wish, and we'll make it happen.
That's impressive, and it's a touching story. But I want people to understand that you didn't, it's not like you decided to make those wishes happen for people and it was really easy and you had lots of money and you know, right? You were doing it in your kitchen.
Oh, there's no economic for the child or a family what it is. Any child from 2.5 to 18 years old is eligible for a wish. And unfortunately, when we started, it was for children with terminal illnesses because none of these children survived at the beginning years. But through the grace of God and modern medicine, so many children are now surviving that the board of directors changed the mission to children with life-threatening illnesses because we can touch more children that way. And fortunately, about 70% of the children, in fact, are surviving. And unfortunately, we are still losing a lot of children.
Yeah, of course. But at least, you know, death is a part of life. That's the reality. And if it was my child, I wouldn't be able to say that so easily. So I understand. But my goodness, you're giving such a great gift in that to say, I'm going to make your wish come true. It's beautiful. Now you've moved on from there. But before we focus on that, I want to say, wow, talk about leadership. You got an idea. I mean, and we could go through any point in your career and point to leadership, by the way. But truly, we could. But that's a huge kind of leadership to say, I'm going to make this difference in the world, and then build it as big as Make-A-Wish God. So
Well,
this,
and I didn't do it by myself, obviously. I mean, we had to find the right people to help co-found it, and that was the most difficult part, to find the right people. And I was still a police officer. I'm still working full time on my job, so we're trying to do this. I think you started mentioning in my kitchen. I was the first president and CEO. But as a mentor of mine in recent years, Greg Reed has mentioned to me, you surround yourself with the smart people. And that's what I did. I was very fortunate to do that and to understand that. Surround myself with the smart people. But after a few years, I had to make a decision. Am I going to run this foundation, which was very difficult to do, or are we going to start hiring the professionals? Because I never took a salary. But I realized we're going to have to start hiring the professionals to make this foundation grow. And myself and the board made that decision, and I think that was the right decision, because obviously, look what's happened to Make-A-Wish since then.
yeah, no, it's quite impressive. All right, so you've done many things, and you've led from many different places. Did you start out with an easy life?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Well, I mean, you've done so much leadership. From you were a military person. You got awards there. I mean, you've just really led over and over again. So, did you start out with an easy life? Was it just a silver spoon and?
Oh no, extremely difficult life, and that's what's pointed out in the book, and especially the movie. I get to say, I didn't think my life was difficult, but apparently Hollywood did. That's why they want to do the movie. But a single mother, extremely poor. Our homes were the back of a car, a tent, flop houses. Just we never knew we were going to live where the next meal was coming from. But it was at 10 years old that we settled in a little town in northern Arizona called Seligman, Arizona, where the first time we had any roots per se, even though we lived for the first 6 months on somebody's kitchen floor. That was our home for a while. But a gentleman there became my father figure named Juan Delgadillo. And he's the one that taught me integrity. He's the one that taught me develop your character. And that small town also, approximately 500, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, that's true, because that whole village, that whole town just helped myself and the other children grow into hopefully productive citizens.
That's very impressive. Okay, so we don't have to tell them your whole movie, but
No.
I wanted to point that out, because so often people go, yeah, but he was probably in position already. He probably had all this networked connections. So that's really not true. So what kind of counsel could you give us on somebody who wants to step out of poverty and really make a difference in the world?
It's the whole hard work thing. I mean, you hear that over and over again. But hard work. And it took me, like 10 years old, I started working full time as a dishwasher. And I've never quit working full time. And when I want to better myself, sometimes you have to get that second job. But it's always hard work. And it's an old cowboy saying, you work for the brand. So when you're working for somebody, you give them your 100% best, because you're working for that brand or for that corporation.
Okay. All right. Well, nobody's going to argue whether you're a leader or not. So now I get to ask you my 3 magic questions. I've asked these 3 questions of everybody. So you're in good company, and Greg Reed had a great answer. You're going to have to step up with it. Question number 1, what is your definition of leadership?
Set by example.
Okay.
If you're going to ask somebody to do something, be able to do it yourself. And in fact, go do it yourself. Show them, work right alongside. And that's something I've always done, and I've always been taught, especially in their career field, in the police career field.
Yeah, that's a great one. All right, and you've done it. You've set by example. So if we want to follow somebody that has really made a difference in the world while at the same time leading, not just made a difference because you were pushing buttons, right? So this is awesome. What's your definition of success?
Wow, there's so many definitions. A lot of people think that it's monetary success, and I'm the perfect example of not that. But my success of myself is that I know I've been able to give back. And I said in my youth, I had this mentor, and he said, Frank, when you can, give back. And I said, we don't have anything. How can I give back? And he said, so many people in this town are helping you. You can give back by your time. Do you see Mrs. Sanchez? You see your yard? It's full of weeds. She needs help painting. And she's bringing beans and tortillas to you all the time. And you can give back by helping pull those weeds, by help her paint that house. It doesn't always take money to give back.
So then success is?
Just helping people, to me. Now, there's a lot of people think success is money. I live on a police retirement, but I feel I'm very successful because I get to meet so many people that have been affected by the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
You know, I'm going to have to agree with you there, because whenever I'm feeling like I'm not being successful, or I'm feeling weighty, or I'm feeling like, oh my goodness, life's overwhelming, I'm trying to do too much, I go help somebody. And isn't that an amazing feeling?
Yes, yes.
So what are you doing now? What are you doing?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, actually, let me ask the third question, since we had a little glitch in that anyways.
Okay.
And then I'll ask you, because I was just asking what you're doing now. But first, the third question is, what would you say is the path to success? I think you already answered it, but maybe because your answer in your definition of success was quite about path, but you might have something you want to add.
Well, and I think I don't even know how I can expand on that a little bit. The pathway is obviously hard work, dedication, just a lot of time, study. But the biggest thing also is surround yourself with the right people. If you're going to be successful, surround yourself with successful people. If you want to hang out with people that are just the lackers and so on, that's what you're going to be. You're going to be the lackers. If you hang out with the overachievers, the achievers, the successful people, that's what you're going to be.
I agree. I agree totally. Okay, so what are you doing now?
What am I doing now? I'm so honored to have actually a fourth career. My first career was the Air Force. Second career, I worked for Motorola for 7 years, then 42 years as a police officer. And all of a sudden, this new career, courtesy of Greg Reed, who's mentoring me, as a motivational, inspirational speaker. And that has become very successful. I've kind of done my time, as they say, and all of a sudden a lot of gigs are coming in, as they call it. But also we've got the new book that's coming out, and I'm really excited about this movie that we're in pre-production for right now.
Well, that's a lot. So we're going to get contact info from you. But before I do that, I want to mention to everybody, you may have noticed he's mentioned 4 careers and none of them were Make-A-Wish. So that really means Make-A-Wish must have been strictly your heart project, right?
Well, it is. It is. And like I said, we turned it over to professionals. Now, I stayed with Make-A-Wish all these years. It's been 36 years, not as management, but as a Wish ambassador. I, for years and years, went around to different chapters throughout the United States, foreign countries, to give keynote speeches, to meet and greet, to promote the foundation, to get funds for it. And I still do that whenever I can.
Wonderful. So how do people, if they want to hear you speak, and they should, by the way, your stories are amazing and very inspirational. So you really should hire Frank. So how do they get you if they, or get your book, any of that?
Just go to my website, Wishman1, the number 1, wishman1.com, and all the information is on the website. You can go to my Facebook page also, just Frank Shankwitz on Facebook. And the book, Wishman, just came out on Amazon for pre-order. It's going to be released, I believe, the 30th of September, official release, but it is available for pre-order right now on Amazon.com.
That's fantastic, because this actually goes out right after it becomes available. So you guys, I want you running and making this the #1 hit right off the bat. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Frank.
Well, thank you.
All right, so we are signing off. I'm going to push the stop broadcast, but remember, this is a virtual leadership summit. I'm Lynette Louise, the Brain Broad. We've been talking with Frank Shankwitz, and I'll see you next time.